What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark Roden, and today we are going over some more Facebook Marketplace cars, this time specifically cars that are under $2,000, because I know a lot of you guys are looking for a first car, might be under $2,000, but you want something that has a little bit of like class to it, something that's a little cool or at least a little bit fun. So today I went on Marketplace, set the price range to $2,000 and looked at automobiles and just found 13 of them. 13 of them, and I'm going to tell you whether or not I think that it is worth your money, and if I do think it's worth your money, why I think that, or if I don't think it's worth your money, why I think that. But anyway, without further ado, if you want to support the channel any more than you already are, head on over to www.smoothstance.com/shop to pick yourself up a hat, shirt, or shorts. With all that out of the way, let's get right into the video. Alright, so first up is this 2000 Honda Accord. He's got it listed for $1,700, and it has 160,000 miles on it with an automatic, and he has zero description whatsoever, so you definitely got to ask a lot of questions, you know, clean title, original motor, ever been in an accident, how's the rust, does it run and drive well, does it need anything, how are the tires, how are the brakes, how's the interior. So many questions you got to ask this guy because he doesn't have anything listed. But if my calculations are correct, usually Hondas are running, and in the picture that you can see that he took of the car, it's in a parking lot, so it looks like he drove it somewhere, and so it has a license plate on it too, so it's registered, so most likely it runs and drives. And if it runs and drives, this is a great first car. Obviously it looks horrible right now. It has terrible paint on it, terrible headlights, interior probably smells like dookie water, but you fix this thing up, give it a little nice touch, modify it a tiny bit. It's a good first car, man. $1,700, I think it's worth it. I would try to get it for $1,500 though. Next up is a 2000 Acura TL. So this is a little bit from the same family, so it's definitely still a Honda, but it's a little bit more luxurious. It definitely looks a little bit better in my personal opinion. But it is $300 more. It's $2K. Oh golly! And it also has 30,000 more miles, almost 40,000 more miles. Oh golly! Automatic transmission as well. But this one does have somewhat of a description. Runs great, clean New York title in hand, no leaks, no rust. That's good news. If everything that he said is true, that's good news. That is a very good thing. These TLs are also a little bit more wanted than the Accords. The only problem is it does have more miles. It is about to hit 200K. 200K miles is a lot of miles, even for a Honda. It's sketchy. I would recommend trying to find something else, but if you do go with this one, it's not a bad choice. I would try getting it for $1,500 though. It is a little scary. Also, these are Hondas, but they come with the V6s, not the inline 4s, so they're not as reliable as most Hondas. Next up is another 2000 car, but this time it's from the wonderful land of Germany, and this thing just, I mean, you can just tell right off the bat what's going on here. It's a 2000 BMW 540i, $500. Obviously, because it's not even a car at this point. It's a parts car, let's be honest. It is a parts car, but I want to make something clear. I want to use this car as an example. The description doesn't really matter, but he just says that it is a scrap car. A lot of young kids might look at something like this and be like, oh, how hard is it to actually fix that up? How hard is it to make that into a running and driving car? It's hard. It's very hard. Okay, I don't recommend that you buy a project car as your first car at all, because you'll be riding the bus the whole rest of your high school career. This is not a good choice to buy if you are a like high schooler. If you just need a parts car for your E39, then yeah, it's a good choice. This one, on the other hand, is a little questionable. So it's a 2000 Toyota Celica, not a GT Celica. It's got $500. It's $500. It only has 102,000 miles with an automatic transmission, but it says it's for parts only. I looked at all the pictures, everything's there. Okay, the engine's there, all the interior pieces are there, the transmission's there, everything is there. So I don't know whether or not this guy is actually selling the whole car for $500 and there's a blown motor, blown transmission, whatever, and that's why he's selling it for $500, or if he has it listed as $500 just because like that's how much he wants for the engine and he's selling the whole parts. His description literally just says car for parts only, so makes no sense really there. But if you can get this whole car for $500, once again, if you're in high school though, still stay away from it. Listen people, if you're in high school, do not buy a project car as your first car. Horrible idea. But if this is a car that you're trying to get as a project car and you're out of high school, if you can actually buy the whole thing for $500, this is a good deal. This is a really good deal. Like, I almost kind of want to buy this. Like, everything is there. Like, everything. Next up is this 2000 Ford Ranger for $1,500. It's blue. I like blue. Blue looks cool sometimes. It only has 100,000 miles with an automatic transmission. He says it needs a frame. Now, this is kind of contradicting on what I just said about the whole like, oh, you shouldn't buy a project car as your first car, because I do think this is a good choice for a first car. It's going to be a project. You're going to need to find another frame for this whole Ford Ranger, but the thing is, most Ford Rangers aren't that expensive, so you can buy a frame for a Ford Ranger or a junkyard Ranger for like $200. Like, it's not going to be that much money. Now, the work is going to be a lot of time for sure, but at the end of the day, you have a 100,000 mile Ford Ranger that's going to last you until like 300,000 miles easily. This is a car that can last you a whole freaking, you can give this car to your kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a good budget car. On top of that, this guy could be wrong. A lot of people are wrong. They're like, oh, it needs this, and then you go look at it and it doesn't actually need that. My friend James, actually, he got a 350Z with only 80,000 miles on it for $5,000 because of that, because the guy thought that it needed a what did he think it needed? He thought it needed some weird sensor, like throttle position. He thought it needed a throttle position sensor, but it actually just needed a tire pressure sensor. And so Jimmy bought this car, and he just immediately had it running, and just bought a tire pressure sensor for it, and it was a $5,000 350Z with 8,000 miles. Like, you gotta look at these things. They actually go there, see if it actually does need a frame, and if it does, think about it. But I still do think it's a pretty good deal. Next up is this 2000 Honda Civic, and as we all know, Civics are freaking ridiculously reliable. It's listed for $1,750. You could probably get it for $1,500. Has 100,000 miles, automatic transmission. But the problem is, he says that the owner replaced it, so now it has a new owner, or a new motor, my bad. And but a bunch of new other stuff that he says is on it, whatever. Always ignore that stuff, okay? If you see like somebody's like list like, oh, it has new this, new that, new this, new that, just ignore it, okay? It doesn't matter to you. It shouldn't matter to you, because a car, it doesn't matter. It does. If you fix something, good on you. That doesn't raise or decrease the value at all. The car has working parts. That's all you need to know. I always hate when I see that on marketplace listings, because they're trying to get people with it, like, oh, it has all this new stuff though. It doesn't matter, because on top of that, he could be lying. He could completely be lying, and it doesn't have that new stuff. But anyway, he says it has all this new stuff. Don't worry about that. What you do need to worry about is that the motor has been replaced by a previous owner. That stuff is usually a nightmare. People overestimate their abilities to work on cars, and when they freaking buy a car and they swap a motor into it, they think that they know how to swap a motor. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. I don't know how to swap a motor into my car. I couldn't do it. Okay, so I'm a pretty, I would say I'm like a amateur mechanic though, and these people that are trying to put motors in their cars don't have any clue anything about mechanics, and it's just a nightmare. Just stay away from cars that say that they have a swapped motor in them. Usually they got something wrong, and you're gonna have to pay the price for that, whether it be just a missing ground wire, or completely just in the incorrect way, or a horrible motor that they put in it, and you don't know the mileage on it. It's so many things that can go wrong with that. So just stay away from cars like that. I would stay away from this one. Here's a car that actually kind of stumped me a little bit, whether or not I think it's a good deal or not. It's 2000 BMW 323 Ci. It's an E46. Right off the bat, you can tell from the picture it has mismatched body panels, so it has been in some sort of accident, or it has been replaced, because these are stock body panels too. This isn't like an M3 fender. That's a stock E46 fender, but it's just not painted. So obviously they had to replace that for some reason. It only has 160,000 miles, which actually is kind of low for an E46. Especially for this price, and it's got a manual transmission, which is good. But then he says it has a bill of sale and last registration only. Now in Connecticut, you can register a car without the title as long as it's 20 years old, but in some states you can't. So you got to make sure you have a title. If you live somewhere where you need a title, this is going to be a big issue. I would stay away from it. If you don't need a title, then I would say that it's a pretty good deal. But then again, it does need a good amount of TLC. It says it right there. And it says it will randomly misfire, and he says he's replaced all these parts. Usually if it's randomly misfiring and you're replacing all the parts that have to deal with the firing order, it's got an electrical issue, and electrical issues are nightmares. I told you guys this before in the past. I'm going to tell you it again. Stay away from electrical issues. Here's a quick one. 2000, my bad, Toyota Camry, $1,800, 213,000 miles on an automatic transmission. And he says that it has no issues, very reliable car, 4-cylinder. It has 213,000 miles, which is a lot, yes, but not for a Camry. The Camrys literally last forever. Like that whole like stereotype between, oh, the Camrys are like a tank of a car. It's true. It's just, it is true. When I was looking at these cars for $2,000, there were so many Camrys that had over 300,000 miles that were still running perfectly fine. Don't worry about the 213,000 miles on this Camry. It'll be fine. Okay, this is a good deal. $1,800. I would try getting it for $1,500 though. Next up is this 2000 Nissan Maxima, my bad. This is a 5th gen, I believe. It's listed for $1,500. It should be listed for $15 because it has 160,000 miles, an automatic transmission, and it won't even start. What? If you buy this, you're an idiot. 5th gen Maximas aren't expensive, not at all. You can buy a working 5th gen Maxima for under $2,000. This car is not a good deal. I want to make this incredibly clear to you. Not a good deal. He says it has a bad camshaft sensor, blah blah blah. Don't ever believe that. If a car doesn't run, it's probably not because of just a freaking camshaft sensor, okay? There's probably more problems there. What caused the camshaft sensor to go bad? What, like, you know what I'm trying to say? Don't buy this one. Just don't buy this one. Stay away from it. Next up is this 2000 Ford Mustang. Obviously, it's a V6. He doesn't say it's a V6, but it's so obvious. You're not buying a freaking Mustang GT New Edge under $2,000, but it's listed for $1,500, and it's got 250,000 miles. It's a lot of miles. It's an automatic transmission. Decent car, runs and drives, has minor cosmetic issues. Come check it out, 1,500 OBO. Doesn't say much about it, but 250,000 miles on a Camry isn't the end of the world, but on a Mustang, especially a V6 Mustang, I would just not ever buy that. That just sounds horrible. Unless you're like planning on buying it and then like immediately selling it, this car just doesn't sound like a good deal. I know it runs fine, whatever, has minor cosmetic issues. There's nothing really wrong with the car, but it's just a ticking time bomb at that point. I wouldn't go for it. Next up is this 2000 Toyota 4Runner. Has 186,000 miles, and he's asking $1,800 for it. Once again, ask for $1,500, get a little money off. Automatic transmission, 2000 Toyota 4Runner limited for sale as is. Runs and drives, needs a knock sensor, and has frame rust. $1,800 or best offer. Obviously, it's going to have frame rust. It's at 180,000 miles, and it's a 2000 SUV, but the knock sensor is an issue. I don't know how hard it is to replace a knock sensor on a freaking 4Runner, obviously. I've never worked on a 4Runner, but usually they're not that difficult to replace. But the problem is, once again, just like the camshaft sensor, what caused the knock sensor to go bad? There could be another reason there. It could literally just be because it got some dirt in it and it's gone bad. It could be that simple. Or it could be because there's some sort of mice running around and they're eating all the wires and it's going to be another wiring issue. At that point, I'd stay away from it. But if you're smart enough as a mechanic to like look at that and be like, okay, it quite literally just needs a knock sensor and it'll be fine, then obviously this is probably a pretty good choice. But if you're like a new person and you don't know what you're looking for and you look at this car and you're like, well, how hard is it to replace a knock sensor? I would bring a mechanic with you, man, because you could get scammed. If it's just a knock sensor and that's literally all that it needs, this is a good deal. $1,500 for a freaking 4Runner. They last forever too, just like the Camry. So next up is this Mark IV GTI. It says it has a VR6 in it, which is kind of weird to me because I never knew they even came with the VR6, to be honest. I'm out of the loop. But it's $1,700 and it obviously has some major work that's needed to it. Look at you can just tell by the picture, all the body panels aren't lined up. That's an issue. Headlights look terrible. Looks like the car's been sitting there for the last 15 years. Oh, it does say that actually. Been sitting for the last couple of years. Recently replaced the fuel pump filter. Fuel filter. The guy doesn't know how to use commas. Will run but won't stay running. Think the injectors are dirty. 140,000 miles. Body is very clean. Clean New York title in hand. Need gone ASAP. The problem with this is whenever people say they think that this is what's wrong with it, and it's something super simple as cleaning the injectors, most likely he already tried cleaning the injectors and he just didn't say that, and there's something else at bay. Because why wouldn't you just, if you already replaced the fuel pump and the fuel filter, which are a lot harder than just cleaning the injectors, why wouldn't you just clean the injectors if you think that's the problem? You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't really make much sense. So if you go look at it and it's been sitting for a couple years, like, I don't know. This one seems sketchy to me, especially since it's a Volkswagen too. Like, I do like the Mark IV GTIs, don't get me wrong, but they do have some problems. So next is this 2000 Audi A4. It's a B5, obviously, but it's an Avant. This is actually the last one, by the way. Avant A4s are the wagons, in case you don't know. It's listed for $1,000. It's got 230,000 miles on it, which is a lot for a freaking Audi. It's got an automatic transmission. 2000 Audi A4 will run and drive, but needs some parts to be street legal again. Fun car, just doesn't have the time to fix it. It will need a tow. Clean title, $1,000 firm. Does not say, like, he's very bare on the freaking description there. It literally says needs some parts to be street legal again. And then it says runs and drives, but then he says it will need a tow. What's going on here, buddy? Does it need what parts does it need? You got to tell me what it needs, because this thing does not look like it will run and drive. First of all, it looks like it's been sitting here for the last decade. On top of that, you say it needs a tow, but then you say it runs and drives. If it runs and drives, then it doesn't need a tow. Yeah, it needs a tow legally, but it doesn't need a tow to get somewhere. It just, this one's, and it's clean title, $1,000 for an A4 B5. It is 230,000 miles, so I mean, I guess that makes sense. But that's if that is like completely fine and it does actually run and drive, that's a really good deal. So why is it that low? It's most likely got another big issue that he's leaving out of the description, so make sure you ask about it. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more. We are still going to be doing a couple more of these like Facebook Marketplace finds. Let me know what other
versions of these you want to see. I can do like just Audis or just Lexuses. Oh, actually, I already did that. No, I'm not going to do just... Oh, goodness, I almost just burped. I actually did just burp. I don't know why I said almost did. I did just burp, so excuse me. But let me know what other videos you guys like to see. I appreciate all the support we've been getting recently. Das Vidania, and have a nice night.